Sunday night, and the BBC News now on BBC One with Michelle Hussein.
A race to curb the mutant strain of coronavirus. Millions of people are now living under tougher restrictions. England's new Tier 4 sees shops closed, streets empty and Christmas bubbles abandoned. Ministers say it could last for months.
The new variant is out of control and we need to bring it under control, and this news about the new variant has been an incredibly difficult end to, frankly, an awful year.
Tonight, the ports of Dover and Folkestone are closing to outgoing traffic as France and other countries suspend travel from the UK because of the spread of the virus. We'll be looking at how the government can respond with an emergency meeting to take place tomorrow. Also tonight.
I've seen this drug on the battlefields of Iraq, Syria, Libya, but I've never seen it in these quantities before.
How a record haul of the amphetamine Captagon has been destroyed in Italy.
History makers, the quadruple, treble winners!
And a clean sweep for Celtic as they reach their 40th Scottish Cup win. Good evening. 18 million people in England and all 3 million who live in Wales have seen extra COVID restrictions come into force today. As ministers said, a new variant of coronavirus is out of control. In England, areas within the new Tier 4 include London, Kent and most of Essex. People should stay home. Non-essential shops, as well as gyms and hairdressers, have closed. Christmas bubble mixing is no longer permitted. The festive rules have changed in the rest of England too. Bubbles will now be allowed to meet only on Christmas Day. Wales's new lockdown restrictions will ease just for Christmas Day. Scotland will also allow bubbles only on the 25th, and the mainland will then go into the highest level of restrictions from Boxing Day. That is also when Northern Ireland begins its previously announced new lockdown. Well, tonight, several countries are responding to the new variant of the virus by suspending travel from the UK, including freight heading to France. Our first report is from our political correspondent, Nick Eardley.
What a difference a day can make. London's Oxford Street, normally one of the busiest for shopping in Europe, deserted today as parts of England entered a new lockdown and millions more faced up to a significantly scaled back Christmas.
I was pinning all of my hopes on this moment now to get home for Christmas.
People like Michaela McCann, who works as an occupational therapist in Surrey and now can't get home to Northern Ireland.
Everybody had made their plans and it just seems like it's just a bit too late. It's just really difficult to accept, and I feel like myself, my resilience has sort of depleted through the year, and I think this was just one final kick.
The government said it was forced to act because of a new variant of the virus that's thought to spread much quicker.
The new variant is out of control and we need to bring it under control, and this news about the new variant has been an incredibly difficult end to, frankly, an awful year.
Wales entered lockdown again at midnight. In Scotland and Northern Ireland, new restrictions are coming just after Christmas. And new Tier 4 restrictions mean in London, the South East and the East of England, people are being urged to stay at home.
We don't know how long these measures are going to be in place. It may be for some time until we can get the vaccine going. That isn't an easy thing to say.
It all feels very different to Wednesday when the four nations agreed that there would still be a relaxation of the law over Christmas. But ministers here say they were given new evidence on Friday about how the new variant of the virus spreads and that they had to act quickly. Others think they were too slow.
How could the government allow people to go on as they were?
Labour's leader this morning said that the Prime Minister had waited until the 11th hour because he was reluctant to make an unpopular decision.
England, Scotland and Labour-run Wales all took pretty drastic action yesterday after being briefed by the experts. So what makes you think in terms of this new variant that the government should have acted sooner?
To put all of this on the new variant is wrong. The infection was out of control, and that's why the government and the Prime Minister should have grasped this instead of flippantly on Wednesday simply saying have a merry little Christmas. It was obvious that the indicators were all in the wrong direction.
The government says that's wrong, that when the data changed, their approach had to as well. But for many, the last couple of days mean a heartbreaking end to what's already been a uniquely difficult year. There has been another sharp increase in the number of positive cases reported today, nearly 36,000, almost double the level reported last week. And it's exactly figures like that that ministers will point to say that's why they had to make this decision. Ultimately, Boris Johnson has decided that for all the political flack he may take from Labour, who say he acted too slow, from some in his own party who say that he's gone too far, that's worth it because of the scale of the emergency.
Nick Eardley at Westminster, thank you very much. Well, the latest developments have sparked bans on travel from the UK into several countries, including France, which is barring arrivals by air, sea, rail or road, including freight. Germany, Italy and the Netherlands and Ireland are also restricting travel. Here's our transport correspondent, Caroline Davies.
This weekend has already seen queues of lorries waiting at Dover. Today's news that France has banned all forms of transport from the UK for 48 hours from midnight, including goods being transported as freight, has many worried this will get much worse.
This is an absolute hammer blow after all the queues that we've had at ports in the last week caused by Brexit stockpiling and, of course, the Christmas rush. So there's real confusion, real uncertainty in the industry tonight.
Obviously, the ban is into France. Are there other routes that these goods could be taken into in a different part of Europe instead?
There are other routes, other sea routes, other ports to other parts of Europe that can be used, but they are a very long way round compared to the short straits of Dover-Calais. And really, it's not a great alternative for where we are now with just a few days to Christmas.
The Prime Minister will chair a Cobra meeting tomorrow to discuss the situation. The Eurotunnel closed its Folkestone terminal at 10 p.m. this evening. The Port of Dover has closed to all traffic leaving the UK. While France is currently the only country to have imposed restrictions on freight, many other European countries have placed bans on British passengers coming into the UK, including Italy, Ireland, the Netherlands and Belgium, concerned about spreading the new strain of the virus. In the UK, some passengers were still boarding trains from London to Manchester this afternoon, despite the fact that rules against leaving Tier 4 came in last night, other than for legally permitted reasons. The British Transport Police have said that there will be more officers at major transport hubs and that officers will only use enforcement if absolutely necessary. In Scotland, the police have said they will double their presence in the border areas, but that it wasn't appropriate for officers to establish checkpoints or roadblocks. Yesterday's announcement has resulted in Christmas plans being upended across the country, not least those of businesses thrown into doubt at the UK's border in the final few days before Christmas. Caroline Davis, BBC News.
Well, the French action has caused the Port of Dover and also Folkestone to be closing to outgoing traffic from now for the next 48 hours. Our business editor, Simon Jack, is here with me in the studio. How much of an impact is this going to have, Simon?
Well, potentially very serious. There was already disruption at the ports. The government are taking it seriously. Tonight there will be meetings with the Department for Transport, the Foreign Office and the Home Office. And tomorrow morning, the Prime Minister will chair a meeting of the Cobra group to assess the situation. As for business, we're getting a lot of different reaction. Hauliers are telling me that although inbound freight can still come in, if they can't get out again for 48 hours, many will think twice about coming in. The Food and Drink Federation says this has the potential to cause serious disruption to UK Christmas fresh food supplies. However, the British Retail Consortium, which represents the supermarkets, has a more measured tone. They're saying retailers have stocked up on goods ahead of Christmas, which should prevent immediate problems. Warehouses are bulging with food at this particular time. So now, I was down in Dover myself on Thursday, and there were the tailbacks 10 to 20 miles long at some point because you have this disruption of stuff coming out of China. You've got a bit of pre-Brexit stockpiling, and you've got that busy Christmas period. And as one haulier chief said to me, saying, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. It does get worse. So some serious disruption in prospect here. And of course, this is 10 days before the UK goes into this rather unknown period where we don't know what we're preparing for. So some, very testing times ahead.
Simon, thank you. We'll be getting an update on the Brexit talks in Brussels in a few minutes' time. The latest government figures on coronavirus show that there were 35,928 new infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period, which means an average number of 27,249 new cases per day in the last week. There were 1,821 people admitted to hospital on average each day in the week to last Wednesday. 326 deaths have been reported for the last 24 hours. That's people who died within 28 days of a positive COVID-19 test. It means an average of 462 deaths per day in the past week. And the total number of UK deaths is now 67,401. The sharply increased number of new cases is being linked to the new variant of COVID being more infectious. Concerns over this have led to the widespread travel restrictions announced this evening. Our health correspondent Catherine Burns reports now on what we know about the mutation and how it happened.
Since the pandemic started, we've learned a lot about coronavirus, but it's been learning about us too. It's had practice at dealing with our immune systems and has developed an extra way of fighting us, this new variant. It's changed 23 times. Many differences are linked to the all-important spike protein, the part of the virus that lets it bind onto human cells. So the worry is that this mutation could make it easier for the virus to infect us. Doctors think this new variant could spread up to 70% faster, although that figure is just an estimate. Scientists advising the government also say it could increase the R number, which shows how the virus can spread, by between 0.4 and 0.9.
When we find the virus, we're finding the virus in the nose and throat. But the higher amount of virus means that people are likely to be more infectious than they would otherwise be. And this means that we need to reiterate the social distancing measures, keep your distance, reduce your contact.
One key question is, will vaccines still work against this? Well, the vaccine trains our immune systems to recognise and react to the spike protein in the virus, and it has changed. But we're talking about tweaks rather than huge differences. It's early days, but scientists think the vaccines are now, more than ever, the key to getting this under control.
Another question is, are people more likely to become very sick or even die if they get infected with this? Well, so far there is no evidence to show that this variant causes more severe illness in any one single person. But it's thought that somewhere between 1 in 100 and 1 in 150 people who get coronavirus will die from it. And if this variant is more infectious, it could cause more cases and so more deaths.
We've already seen ambulances queuing outside of hospitals and some trusts cancelling routine surgery as they struggle to cope with the pandemic and winter pressures. Now, this too.
We're 11,000 beds fewer than we were last year because of infection control. And of the remaining beds, 16,000 of them are occupied by COVID patients. That's 2,000 more than 8 days ago. So what chief executives are saying to us is it's going to be a nail-biting week to 10 days for them whilst they see whether these new measures will have the desired impact.
Until enough of us have been vaccinated, the best way to stop this virus spreading is to stick to social distancing, wear our masks, wash our hands and to cut contact with other people. Catherine Burns, BBC News.
Meanwhile, the Brexit trade negotiations have been continuing in Brussels with the end of the transition period and therefore our current arrangements now only 11 days away. Our Europe editor Katya Adler is live in Brussels now. How is it going, Katya?
Well, Michelle, what we can say is that it really is a case of so near and yet so far. We're told that more than 98% of this deal has been agreed. Negotiations continued here in Brussels all over the weekend, but it just seems the two sides are stuck. There are a number of loose ends, and for example, tonight the government pointed to the EU offer on government subsidies and described it as unbalanced. But essentially, this is coming down to fish. Now, of course, in purely economic terms, the fishing industry isn't really worth much to the UK or to the EU. But with Brexit came that promise of sovereignty over UK waters, and that's what the government is pushing for in these negotiations. But the EU is insisting on maintaining some fishing rights in UK waters. Otherwise, it says there'll be no trade deal at all. Can a solution be found, Michelle? Well, yes, in theory, but in practice, the politics are extremely difficult. If an agreement can be found here, it's said by both sides that a deal could fall into place extremely quickly, and the government says it wants to make a decision either way with these talks before Christmas. We could see a deal this week, but don't forget, the transition period ends on the 31st of December. If there's no agreement by then, we're in a no-deal situation as of the beginning of the year. There's nothing stopping the two sides continuing negotiating then in 2021 if they so choose, but we just don't know yet.
Katia, thank you very much. The Italian authorities have destroyed hundreds of millions of pounds worth of the amphetamine Captagon, seized when shipments from Syria were intercepted. It was part of a coordinated effort against a trade in lucrative narcotics likely run by the Syrian regime and its allies. Captagon is used recreationally across the Middle East and is also taken by militants fighting on the front lines. Our correspondent Quentin Somerville gained exclusive access to the operation in Naples.
Syria's war can seem a million miles away from Europe, but tonight in Naples it intrudes once again. Italy's financial crimes police are on a nighttime mission that has been months in the making. Earlier this summer, they seized €1 billion of amphetamines. Initially, they thought they came from the Islamic State group. Well, they weren't right about that, but tonight they're taking those drugs to be incinerated. The drugs, which came from the Syrian port of Latakia, are under heavy guard on a 9-hour journey to destruction. Inside an unprecedented haul, 85 million pills. Syria's criminal regime and its ally Hezbollah are deep in the drugs trade.
Little by little, we try to win a war. This night, maybe we won a battle, but it's an important one.
But these drugs weren't meant for European streets. Italy was only a stopover on the pills' long journey to Libya. Captagon, the amphetamine, is wildly popular in the Arab world. It's used recreationally and by fighters too. Colonel Danilo Tomo tells me this is the biggest haul we've ever found, the biggest in the world of Captagon. Looking at the amount, we think it would have flooded the entire market. I've seen this drug on the battlefields of Iraq, Syria, Libya, but I've never seen it in these quantities before. Captagon is produced in Syrian regime and here in rebel-held areas. Abu Abdu, a fighter-turned-smuggler, explains the drug's effects.
Fighters use it. If you have doubts, it brings courage and helps detach you from reality. The pills give you power, make you feel like a hero, so you can enter battle and fight, and not be scared.
It's been a bad year for Syria's drug smugglers. There's been a succession of seizures of their cargo, millions of pills in the last month alone. These pictures are from Egypt. There they were hidden in water filters. Captagon fuels conflict, but it also fills the coffers of Bashar al-Assad's heavily sanctioned state. The growing number of seizures from the narcos of the Middle East is another front in an effort to stop the flow of illegal riches reaching the Syrian regime. Quentin Somerville, BBC News, Naples.
Time now for the sport. Let's catch up with Ollie Foster at the BBC Sports Centre. Ollie?
Thank you, Michelle. 7 months later than scheduled, last season's Scottish Cup final took place at Hampden Park today. Celtic beat Hearts on penalties to complete another treble of domestic trophies. Chris McLaughlin was at the match.
On Glasgow's south side, the festive cup final had flames but no fans. Initially there was familiarity though, in the strangest of times. Celtic dominating where it mattered. The first was sensational. Take a bow, Ryan Christie. It was 2 before the half hour. A helping hand from Christophe Berra was followed by the cheekiest of chips from Odsonne Edouard. But wait, Liam Boyce gave Hearts hope minutes after the break. Stephen Kingsley gave them the equaliser.
Oh, they're claiming it's over the line. It's a Hearts goal. They're level.
Game on. It was to go all the way to penalties. Both teams scored in extra time, and Christopher Ayer won it from the spot.
For the cup. And he's done it.
They did it the hard way, but it's the quadruple treble for Celtic.
The history makers are Celtic Football Club.
Chris McLaughlin, BBC News, Hampden Park.
We've had 4 games in the Premier League. All the goals are coming up on Match of the Day 2 after the news, but I've got the results for you if you want them. Manchester United are up to 3rd in the table after thrashing Leeds 6-2. Scott McTominay scored twice inside the first 3 minutes. That's a Premier League record. There were 2 matches in Rugby Union's Champions Cup, and Bristol Bears have given themselves a chance of reaching the quarter-finals with a bonus point win over Connacht. Johan Lloyd with their 4th try in the 27-18 win. Harlequins lost to Racing in the other game today. Now, at the end of a record-breaking year in Formula One, Lewis Hamilton has been named the BBC Sports Personality of the Year for a 2nd time. Our sports correspondent Andy Swiss was at the awards show.
The 2020 BBC Sports Personality of the Year is Lewis Hamilton.
He's no stranger to winning, and after a season in which he became Formula One's most successful driver, for Lewis Hamilton, one final victory. 6 years after he first lifted that famous trophy, he'd done it again.
Please, everyone out there, go out and follow your dreams. To all the kids, please never give up on yourself. Never continue to believe in yourself, because you have what it takes to be great.
Inevitably, it was a very different show to normal. The only crowd in the studio was a virtual one, after a year in which sport has battled COVID, but also brought inspiration. Captain Sir Tom Moore both receiving an award and presenting one to 9-year-old Tobias Weller, who has cerebral palsy and walked 2 marathons for charity. Another of tonight's winners is the man behind me. In this challenging year, few have made such a difference as Marcus Rashford. The Manchester United striker received a special award for raising awareness of child food poverty after his campaign for free school meals.
I've always just had this thing that eats at me saying, make sure you make a difference for the next generation, and I think as a country we should always protect them as much as we can and give them the best chance at life and becoming whatever it is that they want to become.
It was a good night for Liverpool as they won Team of the Year and Jurgen Klopp Coach of the Year. For sport, a celebratory end
Lewis Hamilton
to one of its most difficult years. Andy Swiss, BBC News.
And that says all your sport. Michelle.
Ollie, thank you. And that's all from us now on BBC One. Time for the news where you are. Good night.